Hey, Miss Keisha, good evening. Welcome to Singlesations. We will be getting started in just a few minutes. Please remember to share this to your page. I am very excited about tonight's session, and we will get started here shortly. Hello, Miss Terry. Thank you for joining. This is going to be amazing tonight. Please share it on your pages. We are going to be talking about all things single, all things married, all things divorced, and all things widowed. Hey, Juanita. Hey, cuz Lisa. Good to see you ladies tonight. Thank you so much for joining. I'm excited. My guests are waiting, and they are locked and loaded and ready to share their experiences with us. This is going to be very fun tonight. I have a good feeling. This is going to be amazing. Thanks so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I know there are other places you could have been tonight, so I do not count it robbery that you would decide to come and join us with Singlesations. As you come in, ladies, tell me where you're joining from, what city, state, and also tell me what your status is, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're divorced, whether you're widowed, whether it's complicated. Tell us where you're dialing in from tonight. So about 4 minutes after, I'm going to get started in just a minute. Have Charlotte represented, have Jacksonville, Florida represented. As you come in, ladies, don't be afraid to communicate with us through the comments. Post your questions, post your comments. We don't want this to just be a four-way discussion. We also want you to be engaged in the conversation as well. Lisa says she's single, divorced, and widowed, so she can relate to all the statuses. Good evening, Krishanda. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, Miss Tiana. Hey, Nia. Thank you so much, ladies. I appreciate you joining in. And while we're waiting on other people to join, let me just go ahead and again say thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to Singlesations. Singlesations is a platform that I created to give mature women a platform in order to share their experiences about being single and to actually tell the truth about their single status. This is an absolute no judgment zone. You can feel free to comment, and nobody is going to judge. Anything that you share tonight. We are here to be open. We're here to be free. We are here to be healed. So please feel free to communicate in the chat. Please feel free to ask your questions. Also, there is no male bashing in this forum. We can talk about our experiences without bashing the other party. So we're going to get started here shortly. And I'm going to bring my guests on so they can go ahead and introduce themselves. Let's see. All right, ladies, I'm about to bring you on.
Hi, ladies.
Okay, hold on. Bring everybody on at the same time, or one at a time. All right. Welcome to Singlesations, ladies. How are you doing tonight?
Good.
I'm doing well.
I'm excited.
Awesome. Before we get started, I want each of you to introduce yourselves. Tell us your name, your age, where you're from. You can put in there how we know each other if you want to, and then just give us a 2-minute spiel about your journey. So I'm going to start with Rashana.
Hi, ladies. Thank you, Ivy, for allowing me to be on this platform. I really am excited. I met Ivy when we used to work together before she moved and left me. She moved and we worked together for a couple of years. And I am 43 years old. I will be 44 this year. Um, just a little bit about my single journey. It has been a up and down journey. It has been quite lengthy. That I say quite lengthy because God got other plans, but it's been quite lengthy for me. It has been, good and bad. I've learned a lot being single, just a lot about myself, more so than anything. So, I'm just excited to dive in tonight and, let's just have a chat and conversate.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, Miss Michelle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle MJ Tillman, and I just wanted to briefly tell about my story, which I know Ivy from church together, going to church together, serving together. And part of my story is being engaged before my current husband and basically finding out a whole bunch of mess 11 days before I was supposed to be married, and then that being called off and feeling like marriage was not going to happen for me again, and also living a promiscuous lifestyle and not thinking that I was worthy of being someone's wife because of my past, and to now being married. Also created a podcast called Booty Call the Bride, just to encourage other women who may have had that type of past that there is redemption for them as well. And now I am married going on 4 years coming up this year. And I have a 14-month-old daughter.
Awesome. I'm glad you mentioned your podcast because I have a question for you that we will discuss later on, specifically about the name of your podcast. So thank you, ma'am. And last but not least, Elder J.
Hello, ladies. My name is Jocelyn, and I am delighted to be here this afternoon. I can't have C, but I'm good. What am I supposed to say? I met Ivy a few years back when we both were serving at the Potter's House. Uh, I can relate in a whole lot of different ways. It's just wonderful to hear other ladies' testimony as it relates to, being in relationship and being single. I'm single by choice now. I've been single by widowed. I've been single by divorce. I've been single by situations, but I thank God for where I am today.
Mhm.
Okay, amazing. Well, we're going to go ahead and get into these questions. You have a question, Elder J?
Yes, excuse me. We're having a problem finding the link on your page so we can share it.
Oh, it should be on my Ivy Ashley page. It's on
It's not
there.
on there. No. Gary Tracy went up and down on that page.
Hmm. Hold on, ladies. Sorry about this. Make sure.
It should be on there. I saw it.
Yeah, it's on there. Yeah, I
Okay,
shared it.
okay, it's on your consulting page. It's not
It's on the
your personal
consulting page. It's not on the personal. She just found it.
I got you. I got you.
She has it now.
Yeah, okay. All righty. So let's move forward. We have some questions as it relate to singleness. We have some married questions, and we also have some widow divorce questions. And then we also have some miscellaneous questions that we're going to talk about too. So the very first question, I think I'm going to give this one to both Rashina and Michelle. So what would you say is the biggest challenge you have faced as a mature single woman?
Michelle, you want me to start, or you you want
Yeah,
to take that?
Rashina, you can
You
start.
want me to start? Um, I think one of the biggest challenges that I personally have come across is that I've met a lot of men that are intimidated. Um,
Mm.
you know, of course I don't know initially what a man's standard is, what he's looking for. You dabble into that as you begin dating. But I've noticed that I've had men that have been in my path that I was not aware that, liked me or wanted to inquire about dating me. And I found that, they've admitted, years later, through either someone or conversation, that I am intimidating. And so I found that I've gotten that quite often. And I had to kind of reflect on myself, like, well, what is it that's so intimidating about me? And I think for me, it's the way that I carry myself, it's the way that I present myself. I don't present myself as, just anybody that you can just decide that you want to just throw to the side, or you want to just, uh, throw away. And I think that the men, not trying to bash men, of course, because, we all have something that we're dealing with. But I just think that some men who haven't matured, and I was getting to the maturity part, who just haven't matured, would look at someone who has success, or look at a woman's, how much money she makes, or if her credit is good, or she has her own home. That can be intimidating if they're not where they want to be in life. It doesn't mean that they're a bad man, because I think we have this stigma as single women that men don't go through stuff as well. I was one of them. I was like, men are dogs. They don't know what they want, whatever. And as I matured, I understood that, what, they're human. They have issues just like I do. And so I find that now with, the men that I've come across, it's been more of them being comfortable in who they are in order to be able to have a relationship with me. And just the comfort level of that is what I find with a lot of men, that I've come across, I would say maybe in the past 10 years, that I've come across, that's been one of the common denominators that I found with men, is that, when they get to know me, they're like, you're really cool. But first meeting, it's intimidating.
Okay. Go ahead, Michelle. I'll comment after you.
I would say the balance between, okay, I'm a certain age, and I forgot to say my age earlier. I'm 35. I'm a certain age, and I've dealt with several men. So is it me, The balance between is it me or God's timing,
Yes.
and not knowing how much of each could be playing a role in my singleness.
Yeah.
The older you get, I think that was the biggest thing for me, being a person of faith, trying to balance which side of it was. And being able to recognize that everything ain't spiritual. Sometimes it's just stuff in the natural that I was doing wrong.
Mhm.
So that was the biggest challenge for me.
Right. And I think that is huge to be able to go through a period of self discovery
Yes.
and really,
Mhm.
find out, who you are and what you want. Because if we're honest with ourselves,
Yes.
when we're in a relationship, the common denominator is us. So, if
Right.
you find yourself, you know, always picking the same type of men or always experiencing the same type of circumstances in your relationships, then darling, it might not just be the man.
Right.
It might
That's true.
be it might be the fact that, hey, I need to step back and look at myself and see what's going on with me. And for myself, I realized I was dating broken. And
Yes.
because I had broken places in my life, things in areas that had not been healed, especially, dealing with my dad. And it seemed like every guy I dated had something about them that referred back to something I didn't like about my own father. So
Wow.
until I healed from that thing, you know, I would never have experienced a productive or fruitful relationship. So, ladies, I want to hear your feedback in the chat. And I see you guys are listening in, but we want to make sure that you are engaged in the conversation and make your comments off of what is being discussed and also ask your questions. All right, so the next thing, and I hear a little bit of feedback. So if you have more than one device on, you may want to mute the one that you're not using for this broadcast. So the next question I have is, how does a woman date with intent? And I actually believe that all of us can
Mhm.
chime in on this one. So coming from the married person first, who's been married the least amount of time, Michelle, how do you think a woman dates with intent?
Okay, sorry, I was trying to do something different. So somebody said I was giving feedback. Um, to date with intent would be, for me, my thing would be to weed out things that you won't deal with before you even waste
Right.
time going on a date.
Yes.
Like, for
Absolutely.
example, back in my 20s, I was just trying to go on a date. I'm trying to go out, I'm trying to get a meal, I'm trying to get drinks. So I was on, like, literally in my 20s, 1 year I went on 13 first dates, 13 different men,
Oh, wow.
first dates,
Listen.
just because I could. I
Right.
had just lost a whole bunch of weight and I was feeling myself and I was like,
Okay.
oh, you want to take me out? I'm going. But now, being more mature, realizing to date with intent instead of, oh, I'll get to know them on the date. Get to know them. Don't be afraid of having several phone conversations before
Right.
you actually go on a date. Whether you meet them online, whether you meet them in the grocery store, it doesn't matter. Get to know them first, because you can find some stuff out the first conversation. You're like, what's the point of
Yes.
going on a date? There's nothing else to talk about. And I think that is having an intent and not just being so desperate to go out with someone that you're just going out before you even know if there's things that you're compatible on.
Exactly. So one
I
question that
totally agree.
came up from the chat is, Lisa asked, dating with intent to get married or dating just to date? And I think that's one of the things that you have to decide. Because if you want to date with the hopes of being married, then that's one thing. But if you want to date just to go out, just to get a meal, like Michelle say, I mean, there's really no guide or no focus to that. Go ahead, Rosh, and I'll let you go.
I was going to chime in and say I can totally relate to that because, when I was in my 30s and my 20s, I really didn't know who I was. I was just very much, just insecure. I had, in my 30s, that one man that told me that I wasn't good enough. So that just painted the picture for me from like about 25 years old all the way until I was in my 30s, like past 30s. And I didn't realize that how much one word, now, mind you, we had broken up. I had moved on. He moved on. He even, he's no longer with us. He passed away. But even after that, I literally still dealt with, issues of me not being good enough because he told me if I was 20 pounds lighter, I would be the bomb. And so I kind of took that and I was just like, wow, you know, if I was 20 pounds lighter. So every man after that, you know, I thought, well, I'm not skinny enough or I'm not cute enough. And I realized that I stayed in some relationships far too long than what I should have stayed in. And I think that's what we do sometimes as women. We stay in these relationships that says, it's the crossroad is here.
Absolutely.
You are not supposed to be here. So why are you staying here? And I had to realize that I didn't value my self-worth. I didn't look at myself how God viewed me. I didn't see myself in what God says in his word about me being fearfully and wonderfully made, me being beautiful, me being this beautiful woman that he created. And just because you can't see my worth, that doesn't mean I diminish my worth so that you can be exalted. That just doesn't work. And so I think sometimes we stay in things way too long when the writing's on the wall. And sometimes it can be because we just want somebody with us because we're lonely, you know. But
Right.
That's
I just
true.
had, yeah, I had to almost like do a metamorphosis after that. I had to go into a place with God in order to be healed in that and understand that, oh, I got it. I'm that chick. So,
Ex-
this
exactly.
is about yourself.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what I was going to say, just to piggyback off of what you and Michelle shared, is
Hmm.
that I think to date with intent, before you can even think about dating, you have to know who you are and what you want. Because
Exactly.
if you don't know those two things, you'll adjust your standards for everybody you date. And then in the long run, you'll fall short and you won't get what you need out of the situation because you don't even know what that is.
Exactly.
Um, Elder J, you want to share anything?
I think these women are wonderful. I'm just sitting here gleaning and getting all this good information, but you're exactly right. You have to know who you are. I'm from the old school persuasion. These young ladies are much younger than me. I just turned 60 yesterday, and she said
Wow.
she was going on dates to get a meal. We went on date and got our whole rent paid for the month.
Well, wait,
We
wait
got
a
rent
minute.
paid.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, girl, I said, y'all living beneath y'all privileges. We went on
Hold
that.
on.
Look at here.
Let
We
me
got
take
we
a
got our
note.
rent paid. Girl, wait a minute. You can call me later. We got our bills paid. Girl, I even got 4 sets of tires for my car. Don't you play with me?
Hold on.
No, but
Because
you got
the
to
rust
know,
flat on my truck real
huh?
expensive. I
Girl, it
said the
don't
one.
matter. It don't matter. But see, I was much younger than we talking about a good 40 years ago. But the
Yeah,
thing of that is this, like she said, we have to date with intent. You have to know you, first of all. You can't go in there looking for someone to be your everything or be your savior.
yeah,
A lot of times, a lot of this stuff stems from relationships with our dad, or something happened to you. Maybe you was molested or something like that. You go through all these different issues that people have. But at the same time, you have to get to a place where you're comfortable in your own skin. You know who you are. You know where you want to go. And so, and I won't say unlike you ladies, but I'm at a point in my life now at 60. Trust me, I know what I want. I know what I don't want. I know what I'm gonna put up with, and I definitely know what I'm not gonna tolerate. So
exactly.
you
Absolutely.
don't have to get this old to get there. But I'm just a late bloomer. But the thing of that is this: I'm there. I don't even think. Now I've been married 4 times, and I put up 4 on both hands, but not 8. So the thing of that is this: is I know that I'm called to marriage. I know that I'm called to marriage. Now, will I do it again? God himself had to come down here and show an ID, and say, I am he. But the thing of that is this, I love male companionship. Ain't nothing in my physicality said that I'm dead. I have a lot of situations that I'm gonna have to really get back into that place and say, hey, look, I need you to bring this stuff under submission. But the thing of that is this, once you know who you are, you don't have to settle.
That's
You don't
right.
have to settle at all. You put yourself in position of authority and say, nah, boo, it ain't that deep. It's nice knowing you. That's why it's important to develop a friendship. Like I was telling a guy not too long ago, if I develop a friendship and nothing else come out of this, you're gonna have a very, very good friend, a very good friend. But the thing of that is, number one, like she said, you got to know who you are, and don't settle. Don't settle.
Yes.
And I'm sure the sister can buy her own meals now, so you ain't got to settle. You ain't got to put up with and tolerate a lot of stuff. Don't let nobody tell you too big. Now they got the big people saying that they fine, and everybody got all of this. What's the word? Self-esteem. So ain't nobody out there now looking. Everybody got a chance now.
Exactly.
The bigger sister, the finer sister would be in the corner waiting on somebody like, what about me? Not no more. It's the thin
That's
sister
right.
in the corner because everybody wants some meat on them bones nowadays. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's right. That is good. I feel like I'm in a teaching session. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I think we're going to transition to some of the married questions, and we'll come back to the single section. So the first question I want to ask is, what have you learned about yourself in marriage that surprised you? Michelle, I'll let you go first on this one.
The thing that I learned about myself, and I learned so much, especially going through this pandemic. But one thing that I really realized is that it is hard for me to give what I don't need. And by that, what I'm saying is, like in the 5 love languages, everyone has a different love language. My love language is, well, it used to be gifts. Now that I'm a mom, it has kind of changed to acts of service. But if I don't need words of affirmation, it is hard for me to give to you what I don't see value in. So I had to learn it doesn't matter what I see value in, it matters what you need. And so I never recognized how hard it was for me to do that, because nothing challenges you to do that like a marriage does. And no other type of relationship is it that in your face every day, unless you have a roommate, but it's still not the same. But so yeah, that it's hard for me to give what I don't need.
Wow.
That's good.
That's good.
Elder J.
That is really good, because a lot of times I remember in my former marriage, one of them, I would always give what I think the other person need, and if you sit down and communicate, they'll tell you exactly what they need. And I used to make excuses for Cliff. He would say, I just don't talk. I just don't do this. Men would say what they want. They would say what they need. Not only that, they go after what they want and what they need. We don't have to push anything on them. Just allow them to talk and don't take over the conversation, but allow them. And first you got to make them feel comfortable. If you're always nagging and taking control, and they feel like they just can't talk to you, but they'll tell you what they want. They'll tell you what they need.
Yeah.
I want to just agree with that too, because not giving them space to communicate after you, feeling like you know what they're about to say, so you trying to say what you think they're gonna say. No, just let them talk. And a lot of times, especially if you are an aggressive or a type A or anything like that, you don't even recognize that you don't leave space for them to respond.
Right.
Okay. I think that leads into my next question, which is, what is the biggest misconception that single women have about marriage? And either one of you ladies can take this one, Elder J or Michelle.
I want the married to say.
Okay, well, I'll say, because I'm still newly married, I will say that the biggest misconception, one, is that you're going to be busting it open, dropping it down every day, all day. It's when you're married, because you want it every day, all day when you're single, that you are going to be doing all of that when you get married all the time. And that's the time where you don't want to have sex, when you don't feel like having sex. Like when you're not getting it, you can't even imagine that you would say, nah, I'm good. But there will come a point where, even if it's not all the time, I'm not saying you're not going to ever want it, but there does come a time where there's a shift and things change. And okay, now that you have it, you can get it all the time. It's not as special, but that's part of the work of marriage, of keeping that up. But I would have never imagined in my head, single, that there would be a time where I'm like, okay, well, let's wait till tomorrow, or I'm sleeping. I would have never, ever imagined.
Don't you say that. Don't you say that. Don't
Just
you say that.
But it does happen. It does shift.
Yep. Elder J, I know, because I'm still one of those living in the single fantasy that we're gonna be making movies all the time. So
no, you ain't. No, you ain't. And see, the sad thing about it is, going into that situation of being married, them brothers got the sister thinking it's gonna be like that all the time. They ain't got it like that. They said in wolf cookies. It ain't gonna be like that all the time. You know, and when you do get them in the mix, they tapping out on you. They'll tap out on you. They can't hang like them. They talk. They can't hang.
They got 15 minutes. Girl, just done.
Girl, that should be grounds for divorce. 15 minutes? Not no 15 minutes. Not 15 minutes. If you can't come with at least an hour and a half, don't come to me.
Oh my God.
Oh, Elder J.
You can keep
No. If you can't come with an hour, no. You have to make up in your mind. No. You have to make up in your mind. You are not for play. Don't come here to play. I quit school because of recess. Don't come for play.
All right,
I ain't the one.
Play.
Hey. She talking about 15 minutes?
No.
Take it out.
Some of them, before I was, done got myself together.
That's all right. We BC, before Christ. Go ahead.
Exactly. Some of them just, people be like, whoa, what we do? Just 15 minutes. We done? Like what? Exactly. But that
well, that sounds like I need to get my stamina up.
Phone number. No, I would lose that phone number.
Start jogging every day.
Goodness.
I would lose that 15-minute phone number. I'll lose that one. No, Lord.
All right. I'm going to go over to the chat and see what the ladies are talking about. We were talking about misconceptions related to marriage. Candace said, I think that it is something that a lot of people struggle with, given what they don't need. Keisha says that marriage is going to take the pain away. That's a misconception that single people have. Let's see. Larissa says, there we go. Larissa says, I am looking forward to the chandelier ministry.
Hey, Larissa.
Girl, you need a good plumber in case the wires pop. I ain't messing with no girl. I ain't messing with no chandeliers. I wear about 185. Ain't gonna be able to do
it. I know that's right. Tiana says people also feel like they know how marriage is supposed to go, but it's no playbook. Right. You create your own narrative, and that is so good. And I think a lot of people fail with due to the art of comparison.
Yes, especially in this age.
Marriage is not. Your marriage is not going to be like mine. My relationship is not going to be like yours. And let the truth be known is that, the marriages that we see today that we marvel after, we don't know that the work both of those people had to put in it in order for us, to be able to marvel at what they look like today.
It's true because what works for this marriage may not work for your marriage because of what
Right.
you're dealing with
Absolutely.
and what your situation is. So it's not cookie cutter.
Right. So Michelle, I actually want to go back because you earlier you in your introduction you mentioned your podcast from Booty Call to Bride. And so the follow-up question I have for you is, can you talk to us about the mindset shift that you experienced going from a booty call to a bride?
I think the biggest thing is realizing that I was living in a false reality. And there are people who are still subjecting themselves to being booty calls under the reality that I'm a woman, I'm controlling my body, I can do what I want to, I'm the one who's, hitting it and quitting it with him, I'm in control of this. But at the end of the day, not because this is right, but this is just how it is, you are still looked at as the hoe. You're the one who is looked at as the piece of trash.
Yeah.
You're not looked at that way.
Yes.
And that's the world that we live in. So even if you want to say women's liberation and all that, it does not change the world that we live in and how you are viewed. And at the end of the day, really realizing that I was doing it to receive something, to receive validation, to receive acceptance, and not because I was just, living out a sexual fantasy or because I was horny. It wasn't really because of that. It was deeper than that. And realizing that the sex was deeper for me than the physical act and why I wanted it. So even though at that time, I looked at it as me getting the guy I want, like, oh, I can get him if I want to. No, getting him is not sex. Getting him is getting his heart, getting his time, even if his finances, not, in a gold digger way, but him being willing to invest in you is what getting him is. And so I used to look at getting a guy as being able to get this fine man who I'm attracted to sexually to sleep with me. And that's not what getting a man is. So shifting my mindset from realizing if people were to find out what I have done, how humiliated and embarrassed and small I would feel versus what I have told myself in my mind that I was doing by just being sexually free as I may have seen it at that time.
Okay. Well, since we are on this topic, and I'm going to actually share Courtney's comments, that's going to bring me to my next question. She said, yes, booty call to bride. Talk to me because I'm this close to making a booty call. And we have all been there. So my next question is, because I understand that everybody on this live, everybody's in a different place. There are some of us who are, waiting, for our mates. There are some who may not be. But in those times when you don't have anyone, how do you deal with horniness? And I'll let anybody go first before I go.
Well, the obvious is masturbation. Let's not pretend like it doesn't happen.
It does.
Let's not pretend like people don't have dildos or whatever they have. But eventually, I won't say this. It never gets easier. I don't care what it is. It never gets easier. Well, I'll say for me, it never got easier to avoid sex when I was horny. It was always hard. It was about distracting myself in the moment, and saying a prayer and speaking in tongues didn't work for me. So,
amen.
No,
I don't know how else to answer, but it never got hard. I did masturbate before, but I did get to a point where I stopped. But it never got easy. It was never easy.
Yeah.
And I think don't know how else to make it. There's no good answer because it never gets easy.
I think it's very important because back in the days when I was growing up, and I grew up in a holiness church. We actually were in a denominational, but My pastor's background at the time was Church of God in Christ, so you know what they were preaching then. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like, read your Bible and pray, and God will take it away. Well, let me know how you read your Bible, because the way I'm reading mine ain't working. So you know, you know, tell me the tone in which you read your scriptures, because it's not translating over here. But I think, Michelle, you had a good point that you really have to distract yourself. And also, if you have to make up in your mind that that's the way you want to go. And then
Right,
make sure
right.
that you surround yourself with, people who you can be accountable to,
Mm-hmm.
who will call you out when you need to be called out. And I'm telling you, and like Michelle said, it's never going to get easier, because some days I'm like, oh yes, I'm yet holding on. And other days I'm like, what's his fall number? So I'm just being real.
Right,
Elder J,
right,
you want
right,
to add
right.
something?
Oh.
Y'all are funny, but she's true. She's telling the truth. I remember when I was married to Conrad before he died, and he was sick, and we were together by at least, well, a total of 8 years, maybe 5 years. He was, I mean, he had dwindled down, couldn't perform, and I have always since. And I didn't have sex till I got married, my first marriage out, but once I got into the groove, I was into the groove. So when he got sick and could no longer perform, because like you said, growing up in Pentecostal, full gospel, Church of God in Christ, it was all about the scriptures. It still is, but you have to make up in your mind how you gonna go through that process, or what you gonna do for you. Nobody has a heaven and hell to put you in. You know what's
Exactly.
working for you. Like you were saying earlier, they were talking about just pray and just read your Bible. Now this is what I did, and it worked. Cause see, I used to always be around a lot of the old mothers, which we don't have a whole lot of them anymore. But I used to be
Mm-hmm.
around the old mothers of Zion and the saints. And I had called, I never forget, I called Mother Lucky. I said, Mother Lucky, I still want some. I didn't even know how to say it. I said, I'm still having some war in my members. We need to do something. She said, baby, let me tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna go over there to the church. I never forget, it was in Irving, Texas, Straightway Pentecostal Cathedral, Church of God in Christ. She said, we're gonna go on a shut-in. Now, see, back then we had real shut-in. We
Mm-hmm.
had real fasting. We you talking about kill the flesh?
Yes.
The flesh was so dead you could actually have a funeral. We went into the church. There was a couple of more mothers. I was probably the only person that wasn't 60 or above. I think I was in my 30s then. And I was about 33 when my husband died. So I was going in because I needed my flesh to come under subjection.
Yes.
Girl, I was in that church for about 2 weeks. We
Straight.
was fasting. Girl, we were fasting. I wasn't working. I had came on my job to take care of him. And so I had help with him, family members. But I went into that church, we fast. Girl, we fast and we fast. I fasted so my lips get turned white as my head. I mean, we didn't have no men. You know how nowadays they have fruit fast. You can go on a peanut butter fast. You can add a press
Yes.
ham fast. They
Yes.
got all kinds of fast. They just don't push the Daniel fast in the corner. But girl, back then there wasn't no such thing. You fast, you didn't have nothing. You couldn't even swallow
Nothing.
toothpaste.
Yes.
And if they thought you had too much toothpaste on your toothbrush, they're gonna take some of that off. Because they didn't want you to swallow nothing. And we
Yeah.
fast. I tell you, girl, and this is the honest God,
Jesus.
it's the honest God truth. When I came out of that church, everything in me was dead. I didn't want no sex. I didn't
That's what
want
he was
all I
hungry.
wanted was I wanted a sandwich. That's the only thing I want. I didn't know what sex was no more. I told you, I said, God, that's when them saints tell you, y'all better believe the old head. When the saints tell you God would keep, the scripture said that God would keep them that willing to be kept. Because I had got to a place, I told Mother Lucky, I don't want to be kept. I said, no, I don't want to be kept. But I tell you what, my heart is pure toward the things of God. I love God. God knows, I'm saved. I love Jesus. I ain't trying to go to hell. I ain't homesick. I ain't trying to go to hell. But I told him, I said, look, we need to fast. But we went in on that fast. When I came out of that fast, I promised that God had took all of that. He
Oh
took it
my
so much
God.
so, even after he died, and a year or so later, I started seeing this other person. My sex desire still hadn't came back. I said, all right, Lord, we can bring it back. We can bring this thing on back around now. I mean, it was gone. So
Ooh,
I
Lord.
don't know I don't know if it would be fair to tell the young ladies to go on that counter fast and knock off. When God take it, He take it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
2
but He
weeks
can
though.
do it.
Woo.
Now I'm not going there. Now at 60, I'm not going on the fast no more. I believe in them, but I ain't trying to do all that.
And
Wow.
can I make one point?
Yes.
One thing I
Please.
just wanted to add is to remind singles and even married women, sometimes we forget that there will be times in your marriage when you are turned on and your spouse is not available for whatever reason, or so this you still have to learn to deal with it in some type of way that is comfortable to you. Like Elder J is saying, like you gotta find that way that you can deal with it regardless, because there will be times when your husband or spouse is not there, and you still have to deal with your
Yeah.
horniness.
Yeah.
Well,
And I think I
what do you mean
go
when
ahead.
you say not there? He's traveling or he's
Traveling, or what if you go on a girls trip and you
you don't
drunk?
go on no girl trip, you stay home.
Well,
I ain't going on no girl trip. The way we were brought up, we never said no. I don't care if he mad, he done did something. I don't care if he went to the club and then come home. We never said no. Matter of fact, I ain't never said no, and I done had 4 of them. I ain't never said no. Matter of fact, he could be mad. If he mad, I sure want it. Because I bet you I put a smile on your face, brother. No.
Okay.
We didn't do all that. No.
Go ahead, Elder J.
No.
well, then there's that.
Wow. Y'all,
No,
this is so
no,
amazing.
sis, you don't go to no sister meeting. We had them sister meeting later. You come home, you take care of home, and then you go to the sister meeting, you go in there in the bathroom, you clean up, then you go to your sister meeting. You take care of that home first.
That's right.
That's right, though.
Yeah.
Leave them sister
Don't
meetings
never
alone.
give him an excuse to go outside that door for nothing.
That's true.
Good.
Now,
Very good.
some of them gonna go out there anyway, but I'm just saying you don't give them excuse.
That's right. All right. So one more question I want to ask in the married section, and before we move to the next part, and I want to get through this pretty quickly. What top 3 characteristics should single women look for in a potential mate that is often overlooked?
One I will say is making sure that they have healed and are aware of how the way they were raised by their parents and their family dynamic, making sure that no matter how healthy you think you were raised or such a great home you were in, that it plays a role in the person you are as an adult, and realizing that could possibly be work that needs to be done based on 2 different people coming from 2 different ways they may have been raised in homes. The family dynamic part, whether it be siblings. So my 3 things would be the relationship with their parents and how they grew up, their siblings, and any generational things that may have been passed down that people don't talk about. Oh, I have they don't talk about that type of stuff. Like if you don't ask, it may never come up. So just knowing all the variations of their family dynamics, especially when it comes to being married, because that will affect your marriage at some point.
Okay. Elder J, you have anything to add?
Well, integrity. Integrity to me is a big thing. It's just like it's off the table nowadays. But the thing of it is, you got to be able to trust somebody. I don't deal with liars, that's for sure. I don't even like excuses, because to me, excuses is nothing but a lie propped up with very little truth. So I don't even deal with excuses. But the thing of it is, integrity is so important to having a relationship. Respect, definitely respect. You ain't finna, even though it's a popular to call women out of their names, such as bees and hoes and all that. I ain't gonna be now one of them. I can't be now. I'm not that girl. So I don't walk that line. But you got to have respect for one another. You want to respect them, but at the same time, they're gonna have to respect you. You don't put up with no craziness. when it comes to that. Respect is a must, definitely a must.
That's right. Okay. Coming from the chat, the three characteristics that Lisa said are compassion, sanity, and also integrity. Another comment from the chat, Misha says, I think she was referring to you, Elder, talking about she teaching right. Another comment, I will be transparent. My husband bought me a Bob, battery operated boyfriend, for those who don't know what that means, when I started traveling, but he was with me every weekend. Another comment, Elder teaching tonight.
Wait a minute, Kevin. Wait a minute. What you said, Bob? Who is Bob?
A battery operated boyfriend. So a sex toy.
That's them rubber things, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I need flesh. I can't be dealing with no rubber. I done got some kind of infection, especially old as I am.
Not from rubber, Elder. You
said it's not rubber?
Yes, I said you can't get an infection from rubber. Well,
yeah, I don't know. It might have some corona on it.
You're so silly. All right, so then my next section I want to go into, because I know we do have some ladies that have been married and also have been widowed tonight. So Elder, the question I want to ask you is, talk to us about how you healed from the death of your first husband.
Oh my God. He was the second. It was really, really hard because I honestly believe that after I had went through that bad marriage with my kid's father, God had just really brought this guy into my life. And I mean, he was the love of my life. I mean, I love this guy, this guy like hog love slop. But the healing from that, it took some time because he was like everything. We did everything together. He didn't want to go nowhere without me. We did a lot of stuff together, and his personality was a lot like mine. So we got along, we clowned, we laughed, and we had a good time. But it took me a minute after he died because it was like I don't even know how to explain it, but I would never forget I was going down 20. You know where Full Gospel Holy Temple is? Right there between off of 20 by Friendship West. I was driving his Jeep and I was coming from somewhere. And we never had, even though he had a different job, but he was also a very good mechanic. So we never had car problem where we had to get someone outside of the house to fix the car. I was coming down 20 and something happened to the car and I had to pull over. When I pulled over, it hit me that he's gone. Who's going to fix this car? And I was on the side of the road and I was just boohooing, just crying, just ridiculously crying. And it had dawned on me like, I'm now dealing with the reality that he's really gone. So it took me a minute. I had to regroup, start trying to handle up and pay bills and do the things that he would normally do. But it took me a while. It was no easy task. Just getting over the fact that he's not there anymore because he was very present. And not only in my life, he and I didn't have kids, but when he came into my life, my kids was babies. So it was to them the only father that they knew. So I had to pick up those pieces and carry on as if he was still there, but it was hard. It wasn't easy.
So would you say just over time?
Yeah, it took over time. Over time. You know what? The thing about it, I'm gonna tell you how much overtime it was. When I got married again, some other stuff came up, and I was like, it reminded me of him. It was like, I think someone has mentioned this. It's like I start comparing this new husband with stuff from that relationship because he was such a wonderful husband, but I never would say to him, this new husband, boy, you need to be like Conright. That was his last name. I would never say that, but I found myself comparing them. And that's never a good thing. It's never a good thing. I had to let it go. So yeah, it took about 2 or 3 years almost for me to totally get him out of my mind.
Okay. So did you deal with any, well, you answered the question I had about comparing him to, other relationships. So you mentioned, the one right after, and you had one more after that, correct?
That was Cliff, uh-huh.
After Cliff, you had another one,
Yeah,
right?
that was about 3 years, uh-huh. That was Sims. Now I met
Okay.
him online. I met him online. He was in DC. So we had that long distance relationship online for about 4 years, and before he came to Dallas and we got married.
So when you connected with him, did you still find yourself comparing him to Conright,
Nah,
or had you moved
nah.
past that?
I had moved
Okay.
past that. Plus it wasn't no comparison.
Okay.
Nah, I moved
Gotcha.
past it. I had moved past it. Yeah.
All right. I want to read one of these questions from the chat. Lisa says, it takes time to heal. When Tony died, I literally felt I lost part of my heart.
Right. Absolutely.
Um, One other question I have for you is, when deciding to remarry, what should a woman who has been either divorced or widowed consider?
Oh, for me,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
what's I think when you go through a divorce or if your spouse die, really spend some time with yourself. Learn how to be with yourself all over again. Because if not, you're going to find yourself going into these relationships expecting what someone else was giving. You don't want that. You want to make sure that you're comfortable being you. So much so that even if you don't ever get married again, you're comfortable being with you. I love Jocelyn. I
Mm-hmm.
love me some Jocelyn. If I don't ever marry again, I'm okay with Jocelyn. And that's where you
Yes.
need to be. So when you go into these relationship, you won't be comparing this person coming in, even if God is bringing this person, you just don't went out and got somebody. You don't want to compare them with the person that you was in love with and they died or you divorced for whatever reason. You don't want to make those comparisons at all. Because even
Right.
the as it's kept, they're not all alike. Men are not all alike. Somebody said, well, all men are alike. No, they're not.
They're not.
Trust
That's
me.
right.
They're not alike.
They they are not. Since you mentioned online dating, someone in the chat has a question about, let's see, can she talk a little more about online dating and let us know a specific question as it relates to online dating? But Elder, can you talk a little bit about your experience with online dating and the other ladies as well?
Sure. Look at me. Sure. Let me tell you.
Oh, I
Let
think
me tell
another
you.
glass.
I would be I would be the first to tell you. I used to say, no, I ain't gonna be able to do that because I don't trust nobody. But you have to have your own process. Now I tell people, I don't
Uh-oh, we just lost her.
What happened?
I don't know. Um, Michelle Rashna, one of you ladies, you want to share your experience with online dating, and so I can get Elder back?
Well, for me, um, it's been a process. It's funny that she was talking about, her experience, when she was going into her experience about online dating. My sister actually met her husband online, and my sister's been married now for almost a year now, almost a year. But that was her first time ever being online. And she actually, they met, they courted, got married. That has not been my story. That's my sister's story. But because just to give someone out there variety that, it can happen, for you. But I think that for me, I'm pretty sure in what I want in a man, in what I and I'm not gonna say all of what I want, because I realize that even in dating, a man has to build up to that. He has to mature, so to speak. You can ask God for this and he has to mature. But in going back to online dating, um, I haven't had the best experience online dating.
Mm-hmm.
I recently tried Hinge, um, and maybe I didn't give it enough time, but I kind of deleted my profile because just what was coming in my inbox, I'm just not about that. I had one guy tell me he a sex god. I don't, sir. I don't want the sex god for a husband. Like, that's not me. I had I met a guy, we were having a conversation, we were talking, it was great. And he was saying that he was in a situation. You're in a situation and you're unhinged. So where is this going? So I think that what Elder was about to say is that you have to be sure in what you want when you're dating online. You have to weed out what you don't want, because you will have men that will come at you and they are looking for, just a playtime. If you feel like that's what you want, then okay. But if that's not what you want, you don't have to accept that because, I'm just, I want to be with somebody, or I'm lonely, or, I'm tired of being out here by myself. You have to really know what you want when you are online dating. You have to date, like we said, with intention. What do you want? Do you want to be someone's date, or do you want to be a wife? So what is it that you want when you're dating someone online? When you have that intention, when the red flags come up, you have to make a decision. Okay, this is a red flag. Do I stay in this, or do I kind of find out a little bit more about this red flag, or do I just kind of let it go? So,
Okay. Michelle, have you ever online dated?
Absolutely. I was the queen of online dating. Like that year when I said I went out with 13 different people, that was all online. Online dating, as far as variety, was amazing for me. I think the problem is that I kind of tend to think that I can control everything. And online dating just fed that part of me, that control. Okay, I don't want nobody under 5'10". I don't want nobody. Like, I was checking out, like, if you didn't fit into my search criteria, you would never show up. You would never get a chance. I could just block people. And the introvert in me, I don't gotta talk to you. You say something I don't like, block, keep going. Versus in person, I gotta be nice, so you don't say I got an attitude and all that. So online dating was helpful in that sense. But of course, it never led, for me personally, it didn't lead to something very serious ever. The people who I ever always ended up in a more serious relationship with, I met in person. So even though I liked it and I liked the flexibility, it never actually ended in a serious relationship.
Yeah. For me, I've also, tried it, and it's been hit and miss. I've had some, really good, male friendships to come out of it. But I think you really just have to know what you want. Because like Rashna said, people will come at you sideways. I remember this one time, this guy who said, you just can't imagine the things I want to do for your beautiful body. And I was like, dude, you don't even know me. What are you talking about? But at the same time, I think, sometimes women put too many restrictions,
yes.
In how, if a man sends WYD, they automatically X him out. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, girl, at least he's saying WYD.
At least he asking about you. Exactly. Like,
So you have to, kind of guide the conversation, because some men, can be introverts. They may not be conversationalists, but if you ask the right questions and engage a conversation, then something could develop out of it. I think sometimes, yes, well, if he ain't chasing me, I don't want him. Well, I mean, he don't even know if you're worth being chased. Hello.
That's so true.
I think we have to, don't lower your standards, don't alter who you are, but be open to the process and use your intuition. And if you save, use your Holy Ghost. When something is not right.
Yes.
And so many times we ignore those things, but if something you got that feeling on the inside, don't do it, cut it off. But if you don't get that, in your spirit, then proceed with caution.
That's true.
Elder J. Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle. Well, you want to say something first? Okay, Elder J.
Yeah, you're right. I tell people now that I'm on this one site I give them 30 days. I don't do online dating. I call it online meeting. Once we meet and we agree that we're going to communicate, we exchange phone numbers. I know some people are against that, but you can block anybody. So
Yes.
if you call in, we're communicating, that's fine. Because I'm not going to go in there. I'm not going to go looking like I'm hungry every 30 minutes trying to see if you don't respond to a question, or if you send me a text, it may be a whole hour the next day before I see that. I ain't got time for that.
Right.
My life, I ain't got that. I got more time behind me than I do ahead of me. I don't have time for all of that. So we'll text or we'll call. But I really like talking to people because a lot of things get kind of lost in texting with these messages. You can say one thing and mean one thing, and it'd be translated. It's left up to the receiver. A lot of times they mistaking you for what you done said and all of that. And I said, now I know we old. I said, but I ain't got time for all of that. So we communicate on the phone. I tell them, no, we not. I don't want to even deal with the questions. If a guy, and I have a process of elimination. If they get on there and they don't have no picture, and they come sending me talking about, I like your picture, I'm saying, well, I sure can't like yours because it's not up there.
Right.
Exactly.
So I delete them all together. And these guys are talking about they like to hike and go to the woods. You know what culture I'm talking about. They like to go. Well, you ain't carrying me to no woods. You automatically off the list. I ain't going hiking. I'm not going camping. You're not taking me to no mountains. You ain't gonna be able to do none of it. I don't even sleep outdoors. So we ain't, no. So that's a process of elimination. So it's, so you can get down to the good stuff. But a lot of them, you got to
Right.
be careful because people got game. When people start telling you to send them money, I don't know how that people get caught up in that. I told them I ain't got
Yes.
no money. I ain't got no money. You send me some. So no,
Yes, I'm
no.
glad you said that because I think it was a couple of days ago because I would say that I'm open um for dating outside of my race. I have,
Me too, Ivy.
I dated outside of my race once, but I got a message the other day, and I was looking. It was a white guy, and I was looking through his pictures, and I said, I said he looked like he might slip up and call me the N word. It ain't gonna work.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, wait a minute. Did he look like a proud boy?
Yes, I was like, no, ma'am, this ain't gonna work out between
Yeah.
us before we even get
See,
started. So,
I'm not against interracial dating, but it's not for me. Cause see, I'm going back in the day, and I still kind of filter stuff through that time period. And
mhm.
God knows, I ain't no murderer and I ain't no killer, but don't you try me. And you ain't gonna be able, I ain't gonna be able to be with nobody. You look up an accident and call me a nigga. We ain't gonna be able to do that ministry. We ain't gonna be able to do
Right,
that one. No,
It's so true.
no.
And I
exactly.
always wonder if I'm like their black girl experiment, or do you only date black girls, or you just trying to see how far you can go with a black girl? Like, what is your mindset in dating them, especially when they don't look like they date black women? I just always wonder, like, is there an agenda, like, other than being authentic? I just can't fully take it serious.
Right.
Well, I had got a couple of good ones, and with this one guy, I think he was like 6'4". He was married to a black girl. He only dated blacks. I still had my. I like brothers. I just like brothers. It's just my preference. Because you know what? I'm like this. We know our own culture. You know what I'm saying? See, that other stuff, we don't know. We got to filter through too much. We already got some differences. And,
That's
I
right.
don't know. And see, not too long ago, this girl was dating the white guy, and he was texting and saying stuff about her to his friends, and she just so happened to went into his phone and found all that craziness, and come to find out he was planning to get rid of her, really get
Wow.
rid of her. So I ain't got that time for all that. I don't even like scary movies.
All right, ladies, we have probably about 10 minutes left in the discussion tonight, and I want to make sure I get to two more of these questions. So the first question is we're going to make a shift just a little bit, and we know that the Bible talks about or refers to being unequally yoked, not being unequally yoked with unbelievers. So I want, as it relates to dating and relationship, what does it really mean to be unequally yoked? And Rashna, you can go first. I want everyone to chime in on this one.
Um, for me, I just think that of course we know what the biblical term of, being unequally yoked, as far as us not being in the same spirit of God, not having the same faith. But I think that, to elaborate on that, it also, for me, being unequally yoked is that we don't have the same values. We don't have the same core values of respect, of love. You know, I can't be with anyone who believes that it's okay for you to talk down to me, or it's okay for you to demean me. It's okay for you to be, abusive, as far as mentally and, physically as well. So I think, for me, the core values, we have to have the same values, with respect, with love, with integrity, things like that. Of course, coupled with the same faith. Because I can't fight your demons. I got enough to be over here dealing with and contending with. But I that's just real core for me. Just that respect. I've been in abusive relationship before, so that's just a no-go for me. That mental, that yelling and screaming and all of that, we have to lay out the ground rules. Are we
Right.
on the same page as far as what we both value?
Mhm.
Right.
We have to be on the same page in that. So
Okay.
that's my answer to that.
All right. Michelle.
I would have to say, for me, like, from what I understand, like, the yoke is what holds the oxen and, like, it makes you lean one way or the other. So I will say, being unequally yoked to me means, of course, like she said, Rashana said, the same faith, but
Yeah.
does their level or their walk with Christ, like, make it harder for you to keep your walk with Christ on how you want it to be, or do they make it easier, or do they push you? Like, I feel like
Hmm.
there's different levels to. They could just be someone who's like even ground. They don't push you and they don't bring you down. But unequally yoked to me would be the person who brings you down versus either you're equal or pushes you further. So
Yes.
if I have to, if I'm talking about something or reading the word or we're watching a sermon together and I got to explain to you what the pastor's talking about. So instead of me thinking further, I'm having to dummy down what I already know. So to me, that would be unequally yoked, just having to dummy down um, the walk that you have developed and nurtured over the years in order to be with someone. So that would be unequally yoked to me.
Okay. Elder J.
Yeah. I was listening to what the sister was saying about, if she about explaining, and she was talking about dumbing down because he was asking a question or something. Now, let me say this as it relates to that. Sometimes in a situation like that, it could be that he's trying to get an understanding and he's still maturing and still developing. But in the other sense, that can also be unequally yoked. To me, unequally yoked, and y'all gave very good explanation as it relates to biblical, because in the church, how the teaching is, if you believing in God and you're going out there getting somebody in the streets and they don't have no faith or no belief in God, then yes, that's unequally yoked. But since that time, I also learned and come to know and understand that unequally yoked can be many other things. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You can be unequally yoked mentally, physically. You can be I mean, if the person totally throw it off, that's unequally yoked. But if you both, you can be in the same church. And I say this because I was raised in a certain church, and it was almost like if anybody was outside of our belief, then we would be considered unequally yoked with them. I don't care if they was a holiness church. If they didn't believe what we believe that was in their little yellow and white handbook, then that would be considered unequally yoked. But the thing of that is this, where you are spiritually. And when you meet these people, where you meet them online or you meet them in person and you sit down and you have a conversation, you'll know right off. Your Holy Ghost will give you a checkup from the neck up and let you know, hey, this is not going to work. A lot of time we ignore a lot of the red flags because we want that man, or he looks fine, or he look like he can reach, or whatever. But the thing of that is this, a lot of time we sisters, we be looking over them flags. Y'all don't look over no flags no more. I take every flag. I don't care if it's the United States, it's from the United Kingdom. I don't look over no flags. And so the thing
Yes.
of it is, you want to be equally yoked, but at the same time, you can be equally yoked and a person not be where you are, but they are growing and maturing and going that way. And a lot of times, if they ask questions, they're open to receive it. Ain't nothing wrong with that because he's and it could be a he or she. They get into where they're developing their walk even more. Because sometimes you come into a relationship with somebody, you may be already on a track where you got consistency in your life as it relates to your prayer, your time, your study time, your fasting, and this person has not developed that yet. But once they get with you and they're like, okay, I'm going to fast with you. Is it okay if we fast on the same day? They learning, you
Yeah.
know, but and I don't see anything wrong with that. They're getting to where they need to be. But you're dating, it's not like you're already married. You see potential there. But I'm saying if you don't see any potential, any growth toward where you're going, no, you got to call it off. Mm-mm,
I
Yeah.
think
mm-mm.
Elder J made a good point because there's ebbs and flows in your lifetime where one person may be pushing you a little bit more during certain seasons, and like your husband might be pushing you more during this season, and you might have fall off. Like I've experienced that in our marriage where we go back and forth. Like somebody else is the one, like, hey, where you at? Like I ain't seen you pray. Like what's going on? Like it goes back and forth between us both. So even if, like Elder J saying, it don't start off with you being exactly equal when they're asking questions, but that desire to know more is the difference between I'm good where I'm at versus having a desire to grow makes a huge difference because there will be
Right,
times
right,
where you fall off. And as long
right.
as y'all both don't just fall off and nobody ever brings nothing up like, hey, then I think it can work.
Yeah.
I'm
I
telling you, in my last relationship, the young man that I met, he was a retired paramedic from DC, and we was online. Well, we wasn't really online. We met online, but we was texting and calling for 4 years. And I'm telling you, when God brought him into my life, that was an absolute blessing. I promise to God, it was an absolute blessing. I had never felt so secure and so covered in all of my life. Even when I started dealing with medical issues in my body, this guy would take the prayer shawl and literally cover me and pray over me all night long till we watch God move. I'm telling you, when I got
Wow.
diagnosed with lupus and it was 7 chronic diseases. And I'm telling you, the only thing I'm dealing with right now is off and on, and it's not even that much, is the lupus. But I mean, diabetes, that boy prayed diabetes up out. He prayed diabetes up
Wow.
out that house. You hear me? I mean, I had diabetes so bad, they gave me up 3 times a day. I couldn't even take regular insulin. They had to make the insulin. And the insulin was
Wow.
$900 a bottle. I had to pay, try to make sure that I'm able to get all of the medicine and stuff that I need to carry me through. But I watched God use him to cover me. See, that's the kind of person you want in your life. You want a man that not only cover you financially, he cover you sexually, he cover you. You want somebody that can really pray and bombard heaven on your behalf when you don't even feel like you can even get a word through.
yeah. I
So I watched God use him in that respect. And when we got divorced, I said, Lord, I'm gonna miss this. I'm gonna really miss this about this guy, but I really think I need to do this. And it was weird. That's a whole nother workshop, how we ended up getting a divorce because it wasn't something we both wanted, but I was going through so bad medically to he was just suffocating, and I just felt like you needs to be over here, let me be over here so I can really focus on getting my healing, get a total healing. And when it got to the place where I had to make a decision, I made a decision to come out of the marriage. But I told him, I said, you watch, God is going to bless you with a wonderful individual that's going to love you the way you really need to be loved. And I lived to see that. I was at church one day greeting, and him and his wife walked in, and he saw me. He was so excited. He said, let me introduce you to my wife. And she's a wonderful person, just a beautiful spirit. And I don't know what to say, but when I hugged him, they got ready to walk into the sanctuary. I whispered in his ear, I said, didn't I tell you God was gonna bless you? And he still to
Wow.
this day check on me and see how I'm doing. But I tell you, that was an absolute blessing in my life. Absolute
yeah.
blessing.
Just one thing I want to add as well is, and I think you ladies hit it really nicely, is just, not missing the fact where your potential mate is uneven with you. And it's,
Mhm.
communication, if his communication is here and yours is here, that may not work.
Right.
And
Yes.
I think that it is true that, you can bring him up in where he's weak and then vice versa. But at the same time, I think when it comes to certain things, um, I'm not willing to date potential. In certain areas, you know, I think, for me, he's gonna have to come correct in already, because I done been there and done that with dating potential. And you should have caught me when I was dumb in my 20s and my 30s. But as of now in my 40s, it's like, if even dating somebody that don't have any ambition,
Yes.
I can't do that,
That's still
because
unequally
I have
yoked.
a lot of ambition, and there are a lot of things that I want to accomplish in my life. And if I can't count on you to be a helpmate to me as well, then it's not going to work. LJ, you want to say something?
Ivy,
Yes, ma'am.
you mean to tell me you do not want to build a bear?
We ain't building no bears over here.
You don't want to
No,
build a bear?
ma'am. I'm not building no, but I'm too old to be building bears.
Girl, we used to call it back in the day. We used to call it dusting them off. You
Yeah.
dust them off. You kind of fix it. I ain't dusting nothing off no more.
No, brother need to come already stuffed.
Already clear.
Wait a
You know
minute.
what? A lot of times people who are given the advice that to watch them develop are forgetting that they were dating in their 20s. Like,
Exactly.
it's a whole different story when you're older. Like, hold up now, we don't have
Yeah.
time for you to find out your career and you're 55. Like, you should already figure that out. Like,
Yeah,
You see?
exactly.
Yes.
like it's totally different based on your age. And I know a lot of people who are giving advice were dating in their 20s, and what I would have accepted then is not what I would accept now. And
Yeah,
then I saw in the
And
comments too. Oh, sorry.
if
That
you
some
know
people
y'all are not,
saying,
if you know y'all are not accepting it at y'all age, we sure ain't accepting it at 60.
exactly. Yeah, Michelle, I was going to share some of the comments. So, Keisha said most women miss it because they are only looking at the spiritual definition of unequally yoked.
Yes.
yes.
Um, Tiana says, yes, Keisha, don't focus on the spiritual aspect. Look at everything, because just like he has things he needs to work on, so do you. That is
Absolutely.
so
Love
true.
it.
Said just because he can pray heaven down, if like Ivy said, if he has no ambition or he doesn't support your ambition, that can be, it doesn't matter how good he prays, it doesn't matter how close he is to God or what revelation or how he prophesies or speaks in tongues, if he can't do some basic stuff like be consistent with your job or be consistent with your body or whatever, like those things are very important as well.
Exactly. And another thing is, I don't struggle to pay my bills. So I'm not going to be with you and struggle to pay bills.
Exactly.
So, I'm going to need you. We don't have to make the same amount of money, but I need for you to be able to, effectively contribute, to the table. I need to know what you're bringing to the table. And that's conversation sometimes that I don't believe that some people have. As it relates to being unequally yoked. It covers a whole lot on the spectrum. We are like so far over our time, but I have one more question that I want to get to, and then we can wrap up for tonight.
I
And the
think
last,
Elder J is out again.
yeah, I saw it, child. I don't know what's going on with her. I actually just had to plug up my laptop because I was out of battery. But the last question I have is about singles ministry. And how effective do you feel the church is with addressing the challenges of being single?
Go ahead, Michelle.
I was gonna say, I think the church is doing better than before. It's become more mainstream for pastors to talk about relationships and have relationship series, every year. I think that has become more popular in the last maybe 5 to 10 years or so. But um, but I also think that it doesn't negate the personal responsibility that you have to have as an individual to learn and seek and desire for yourself. Because at the end of the day, unless they are a counselor and they've dealt with hundreds of people, they're only talking from their experience, which could be very limited and out of date to the people who are actually dealing with the singleness that they're in. Like I said, a lot of them dated in their 20s, and some things just does not correlate to the many single people who are in their congregation. So I think we're doing better, but I don't think it's perfect, but also don't think it's the church's job to make sure that you have all the information. I think we idolize our pastors and our ministries to a point to where it could be unhealthy, and get into a comparison. So yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think, I kind of disagree just a little bit. I think the church, if the church is going to deal with the total man, if you are going to deal with me spirit, mind, and body, my emotions and all of that, I think they do bear some responsibility a little bit. I personally don't think that the church is as effective with single ministries, and
Yes, I agree with that.
this is why I've been to several churches.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been a singles ministry leader, and I've never been a part of a conversation like this.
Right.
These type
Yes.
of conversations would not happen in a singles ministry because first of all, people are not going to feel comfortable. People are not going to feel comfortable really telling the truth about their situations, and mother so-and-so looking at them like this every time they, pass by and go into the choir stand. There's always going to be a sense of judgment. Hey, I'm supposed to tell my testimony to help somebody else, but at the same time, I tell it, and then I'm going to face repercussions for telling it.
Yes.
When I was a single ministries leader, I remember this one particular time, the mother of the church was the pastor's mom, and she was in her 60s, and she was single as well. And she went back and she told the pastors that all we do is talk about sex. And I got called in the office because mother said that all y'all doing is talking about sex. And I'm like, first of all, that's not true. We are not all talking about sex. But at the same time, aren't you the same pastors that prayed for the people that nobody else want? So when you pray to God that your audience is the one that nobody else wants, them people gonna come with issues.
Yes.
And so if them people are going to come with issues, we have to be in a position to be able to meet everybody where they are, regardless of how uncomfortable those conversations are. So, I have an issue with, if you haven't been single, it's been 20 years since you've been single, you don't have nothing to say to me. You can't relate to my experience. You don't know what I'm going through. When you got a pair of thighs in your bed every night, you don't know, what
Yes.
what my struggle is. So, that's where I am with it. Elder J, you have something to say? I'm with you now.
Girl, y'all on it. I'm trying to make sure that I don't lose you guys again. She put you on
Yeah,
my
I wanted
tablet
to add
also.
in after Elder J.
Go ahead, Elder
Go
J.
ahead.
No, I was finished.
Oh, okay. No, it's just like, you remember back in the day when we was at the church at the Potter's house, and you know how Juanita Bynum was coming through talking about no more sheets, no more sheets, no more sheets, and everybody was all up and rave and all that. And the one that was singing that song the loudest was the one that had thighs in their bed. They were talking about holding on, but they wasn't holding on. And some of them
Yes.
that was singing, they wasn't holding on, but they was going with it. because it was the thing to do. They felt like it was the thing to do. But no, like you said, people are not coming forward trying to share their testimony because of fear of repercussion and being judged and all of that. You have to make a person feel comfortable enough to share their testimonies and stuff that they've been through so that they can help somebody. I've always been good, Ivy. I've always, my life is an open book. I don't sugarcoat nothing. I don't hide nothing. If you want to know, I don't care. Something nowadays people like stay out of my business. You can get in mine. Because can't nobody tell it like I can tell it about me. I don't
Exactly.
mind sharing because I will hope that I can share something that would help somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And, if I can share something that'll help somebody, then that's all the better. I'd rather that they get the information and make a more intelligent decision than not have the
Right.
information to go out there and do something stupid. So now, I mean,
Absolutely.
we gotta create a place where people are comfortable to be able to share, to be able to know that they can get sound advice and be able to make some more intelligent decision.
I 100% agree. Roshni, you have something you want to add before
I
we
was
wrap
gonna
up?
I was gonna say, what everybody said is collectively. Um, my personal experience with singles ministry dated going way back until my early 20s. And even up until now, because I've gone to, a couple of churches, especially down here in South Florida. Um, I have experienced that the majority of the people that are part of singles ministry is women. I never saw men, I'm like, so, and I realized even at just my church alone that I realized that most of the conversations are towards married people. They're not geared towards singles. And when it is brought up about singles, it's always about what a woman should be doing versus,
Right.
men. Because if we think about it, men don't really gather. Men don't really come together, they don't have, forums like this, so to speak. A lot of men don't do that. A lot of men don't really share. And I just noticed like, well, if I'm a part of a singles ministry, why is it not a dialogue with other men, you know so that we can have that open book conversation, so that because men have certain views of what they think about women, and then of course women have certain views as well. So how do we bring the dynamic together? And I haven't seen that. I haven't experienced that with churches, especially, and I can only speak for South Florida. I haven't experienced that. I haven't experienced where um there's a collection of let's all gather and come together, and it's been just women. I'm like, women, yes, we're single, but in order for us to have that dialogue, especially if we want to be married to a man, you know exactly, where the men at you
That's the
know
goal.
I think that it is a problem everywhere, not just out in general. Singles
Okay.
ministry in general, men do not show up to it, and
They
so
don't.
from the church aspect, because I work at a church, it feels sometimes like a failure when you keep putting on things and only women show up. So they give up and they just say, well, we're not doing well at this, so we're not going to do it. I found myself when I was single, I always had to go somewhere outside of my church, and I went to
Yes.
several churches even in this area. I have never found a church that had enough for me to be like, oh, I'm so great with this singles ministry. I always went somewhere else. And what I found, the places that did have men were not like singles events. It was just more places that have like a vibe, and then conversations about relationships and stuff come up, but it wasn't like a singles event, because I think something about that to men makes it seem like they're thirsty, and they kind of feel like women see them as a target when they're at events like that, and it makes it unattractive for them to be there. So I think that number one, that makes it harder for men to come to things like that at a church. They don't come. So then churches feel like it's not successful. This is just a women's meeting, so why are we doing this? So I think that's why it ends up failing in the church. Not saying that they shouldn't be trying harder, not saying that people are scared to be able to tell their true, honest stories in church because of the judgment, because you will be judged, but you will be judged outside of the church too, depending on what your story is. But I do think that in general, I have never been to a church where the singles ministry was popping, ever.
I want to,
Right.
before you respond, Elder J, if you have something to say, I want to go into the comments just a little bit.
Mhm.
Lisa says, the truth is, it's all happening in the church. We must address it without judgment. Folks need to go from brokenness to wholeness.
Yes.
Right.
D says, women attack or heavily pursue those men and scare them from those groups.
I
Um,
actually have a story about that.
That is the truth.
hold on,
I
Rashna. Hold on, Rashna. And then Keisha, just to back that up, says men do not come because women suffocate them. It's like you get a few good a good brother come through the church and he got a selection of about 25.
You see?
listen, listen. I will never forget. I went to, and I'll make this story really short. I'll never forget. I went to a singles event. It was actually at, he's deceased now, but he was my ex. And prior to us, dating, we, kind of, what the older people say, sweet on each other. So we kind of, liked each other. And long and short, someone had asked him, because technically, of course, he's still single, but nobody really knew that we were kind of like trying to get to know each other, talking. And they asked him to host a singles event at his home because he had just bought his home. He's single, firefighter,
Oh
makes good
Lord.
money, no kids, never been married. So, he had this event. So he had asked me if I would come. So I ended up coming kind of late to the event. But when I tell you guys, it was about 40 women in this man's house. 40. Like
My
it was
God.
it was deep. I was just like, oh my God. And I mean, you could tell that there were women there, not all of them, but there were women there that was just like, hey, how you doing? They was like low cut with the breast up, breast out. So it's real. So
Oh
that
yeah.
is so true. You had that one brother that show up at the singles ministry and everybody coming at him. So
Yeah.
it's true.
Like D said, women be ready to pounce on them, like that bell
Yes.
we was talking about earlier.
Yes.
Keisha says that that man was a steak.
Yes. Girl.
And Valletta says, and they were bringing the hot sauce.
Girl, when I tell you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Elder, you have something else to say? We're gonna wrap this up because we've been on for a
No,
little over
no,
an
that's
hour.
good. That's good. I mean, I agree with everything that they're saying, because in the singles ministry, you don't have brothers. Now, if you find two or three lurking around, that's because he's fishing. He's trying to see which one that was weak enough to go home with him. But other than that,
She said we
yeah, I don't want to jump on that one too deep. No.
One more comment. Lisa said, "Lord, don't let the pastor be single. They are like hunters."
What? Yes,
Yeah.
child.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this session
Me too. This was so
tonight.
awesome.
This was absolutely amazing. I thank each and every one of you ladies for sharing your time, sharing your experience, sharing your wisdom, sharing your love with us, or your heart with us. Before we go, I'm going to ask Elder J to just share one last word of encouragement for our audience before we end tonight.
Oh, wow. I just want to say to the audience that continue to be encouraged and know that it's not over till it's over. Continue to trust God. Stay woke, as the young people said. Be wise. Don't, and old people said, don't take no wooden nickels. Just don't play games with it. Be intentional. Know what you want and don't settle. That's it.
I couldn't say it any better than that. I am
Yes.
open, to whatever you ladies want to talk about. The whole premise of Singlesations is to provide women with a safe forum to share their heart, to realize that you are not alone in your journey,
Absolutely.
to come together with like-minded people to get encouragement, and also just to have that safe place. So
Right.
I'm working on some additional things for future sessions. If there is something that you would like for me to address. If there is a question in the chat that I didn't get to, I do apologize. But please don't hesitate to hit me up in my DM. In the future, I am going to have a panel of men. Probably not for next
Good.
month, but the month after that in March, I am going to do a panel of with just men, and I would definitely want to hear what is it that you want to hear from these guys as it relates to dating and how they think, how they perceive women, what they look for, why they decide to date one and marry somebody else. Because sometimes, especially men in the church, they'll play with you for 2 and 3 years, leave you alone, meet somebody else, and they be engaged in 90 days. So, we're going to deal with all of that. So please make sure you let me know what it is that you want us to discuss, because this session is for you. I'm just the platform. So thank you guys again. Thank you,
Thank
Rashida.
you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
ladies.
Elder Jay. I love you guys
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a good weekend. I love you. Good night.
Bye,
Y'all be
ladies. Good
blessed.
night.
Bye bye, ladies. Goodbye.